Hi everyone. My name's Sam from the Voxel Agents. We're an independent Melbourne-based company. So first, I'll run you through what I'm going to speak on in this presentation. I'll introduce the Voxel Agents, Puzzle Retreat, the game that some of you may have seen in the Indie Showcase earlier today. And I'll introduce how it all started with the initial concept and how it's come thus far to the App Store where you can play it. The lights, anyway. And then next I'll take you through our first level editor, and then talk about the theming of the game and the challenges that we've had to face. After that, I'll talk about the minimalist approach, and then show you our current level editor, and then take you through the pacing tools that we use to pace out the content in Puzzle Retreat. So let's go. My studio, as I said, based in Melbourne, Australia. We released Train Conductor 1 in 2009, Train Conductor 2 in 2010, and at the start of this year, we released Puzzle Retreat. So I'll take you through Puzzle Retreat, the trailer first. Shameless plug. So the game actually started out very differently to what it is today. It all started with our artists pitching to the team a tree cutting game where you had a tree on your screen and you slice and you cut away and you collect wood, expending your energy in game. Then after you collect this wood, you would take it to a designer and make some wooden items with it, and then trade them amongst your friends. But then our designer saw the potential in this idea and was like, okay, cool, why don't we explore the puzzle aspect to this game? And so he took out a pen and paper and he prototyped trees on a grid. So the aim for the player would be to cut down trees into particular spaces, and these trees would have different heights. Next, our designer prototyped pathing using a character, so the character would have to path around the trees and make sure they don't cut down trees in their path so that they can cut all the trees down. So I'm just going to take you through our first level editor. We call it the tree editor. So in this, it's sort of like a painting tool where you can place down trees, and if you click multiple times you can increase the height. And then I'll just quickly drop in spawn point for the character, and then you can jump into a play mode and just start cutting these trees down. So that was version 1 of our level editor. Now, the whole theme of cutting trees down was sort of a bad idea at first. We thought it was because it's the environment and we didn't want it to turn into a PR mess. So we decided to explore different themes, and some themes had a fantasy theme to it, where where you could drag out dragons from their holes and lay them out onto the board. some others were more abstract. But then we found that we ended up deciding to stick with the tree theme because it was the best analogy to our game rules. So we decided to explore the theme deeper, and we ended up going with evil trees who are purging the forest and actually stealing all the nutrients from the other trees in the forest. So the aim was to cut these evil trees down. After we had this new theme in, we took it to the Melbourne city streets. We approached random people just to get fresh eyes on the game, because sitting around in the office, you sort of get used to seeing what you've been making all the time. It's always good to get player feedback. Now we found that when we took the game out to the people on the streets, they couldn't pick up and play the game without us assisting them, mainly because we had these rules where the player had to stand behind a tree to cut one down, and players were finding it hard to interact with this game. Now this is critical because the game that we were making is a iOS Android game, so it's for mobile, and we want players to be able to pick up and play it and start playing the game without having anyone to assist them. So we decided to cut back some rules, and we ended up coming down to two simple rules, which is fill all the holes and use all the blocks on the board. Next, after we got these rules to just two, we decided, okay, we need to experiment more with different variations. When I say that, I mean different piece types. So these piece types include arrows that allow you to change the directions of the blocks, fire blocks that when you use to slide over the blocks will melt the blocks underneath them. So once we've locked down the rules of the game, we've decided to think about how we're going to generate this content. But first we looked at a minimalistic design. Because of these two rules, we found that the tree cutting theme no longer fit because it wasn't a very good analogy. So we explored different rules such as buttons, pushing buttons around the board, as well as a more abstract theme and a wooden theme. So we decided, okay, we decided on a theme where it was covered in wood and you pushed ice blocks around, and then we decided to polish that up. And onto the procedural versus manual content generation, we ended up going with a manual approach because the procedural generation was fast, but it always produced lesser quality content. By that I mean the content that was produced was very samey. It felt soulless. So we decided to go manual because our designers could have more control over how the game felt. So I'm going to show you now the current level editor. It has some pretty cool features that I'll just take you through. So it's similar to our version 1 editor, except now it's in Unity, and we can draw out different holes. So the black squares are the empty holes, and the blue guys are the ice blocks. So if I draw out these black holes, I can run a solver, which is probably the most important part of our editor, where it will solve the puzzle for me and give me all the possible solutions. And with this, we can, as you can see, all the different solutions and how they fall into these holes are revealed to us. And with this, we can continue to tweak the puzzle as needed until we're able to get a good puzzle. So now that button's turned green, which means that the level is solvable without any illegal solutions. When I say illegal solutions, I mean there might be empty holes left over, which we never want the player to solve in the game. So I'll continue moving on. So the benefits of this level editor was that we're able to create new mechanics quite quickly. We're able to ship content faster as well, without jeopardizing the quality of it. So now I'll move on to the pacing tools that we use for Puzzle Retreat. Pacing is quite critical. We don't want to have the player get tired out on our content so quickly, so we need to make sure that we keep it varied and we give the player breaks after a difficult puzzle. So we ramp up the difficulty, give them a slight break, and then ramp up again. So firstly, we structure our folders in our project so that it follows a particular process. First, we create the new puzzle on our left, and then it goes into a review process where after we create a puzzle, we hand it to another designer. We're like, hey, play my puzzle, check it out. Does it work? What's wrong with it? Could it be improved? And the other designer could go, oh, okay, it needs more work. The concept's great, but the execution could be better. So it will go into the requires rework folder. Then once that's reworked, it can go back into review and then either go into the new pack ready folder, which means it's a more difficult puzzle, which will go into a new pack that we introduce with an update, or it could go into a insert ready, where it's a more easy puzzle that we can use to later on pad out existing packs. And then lastly, it could go into the graveyard, which is an archive folder where it will never see the light of day ever again. We also have this level bank spreadsheet using Google Docs, where we keep all our reviewed levels. The most important significant part of this spreadsheet would be the rating and difficulty columns. So our designers would put in their rating on an enjoyability factor, as well as the difficulty, how difficult it is to actually solve the puzzle, between easy, medium, hard, and super hard. On the far left, we have these numbers in column A, which is a hash string of the puzzle itself, of the contents of the puzzle. So we're able to use this hash string to make sure that we're only shipping unique puzzles. We don't want to be releasing identicals. So that's how we keep track of the puzzles. Now, we also have a tool in Unity that exports the screenshots of each puzzle. It only takes 3 minutes. You just hit go, let it run in the editor. And this helps us by giving the designers an overview of what the player is going to experience. We have a name for really big puzzles. They're called Big Bad. And we don't really like to put Big Bad puzzles in the same, consecutively. We'd like to give the player a break from that. As well as we also like to break up the variations. For example, we'd put in a fire level, and we wouldn't want to continually put in fire levels with fire blocks in them, because the player's just going to get sick of that particular type. So we like to vary it up, and puzzle screenshots help us do that. We also track metrics using Flurry, and the graphs that you see above here are the version 1.6 update that we put out, and in the y-axis is the number of times players have completed the puzzle for the first time, and on the x-axis is the actual level. So as you can see in piano in the top right, there's a massive drop at level 22. Now that means that less people are playing that level and getting stuck on it. But they are moving on level 23. level 23, and then moving on to level 24. Um, so yeah, that means when we push out an update, we want to make that pacing more smooth, and we want a more linear, less jagged curve. We've also found that over time, these graphs become more horizontal and start to lift because players are just taking longer to complete them. We also have this feature called Facebook comments in our game where players are able to comment and give each other hints as to how to solve puzzles in the game. We found this useful because we can find out how players are going, where they're struggling. Also, it helps with making the game more viral because when they post up a comment, it's able to be published to their wall where their friends can see it. So what would we have done differently? We would have transitioned to the Unity editor much more early in development rather than staying in our Flash editor, which was exporting XML and then importing back into Unity. And with this time saved, we would have explored procedural content generation more. Does anybody have any questions?
You will have 5 minutes for questions.
Hello.
Hi.
I want to ask you that you said before outside this when you were in
Yeah, in the
showcase.
showcase, yeah.
Yes, you told me that this game development was 18 months, right?
Yeah, that is correct. It was 18 months.
Is that because you make the engine or what?
Oh no, because so we were using Flash at the start just for prototyping, and then we moved to Unity. So we don't write our own engine. We actually use middleware, which is the Unity 3D engine. And it took us 18 months because we had distractions from our previous title doing updates for that. So we were coming on and off the project during that 18 months.
How many programmers on the team, and if you don't mind, what are their backgrounds, their educations, and so on?
Currently, there's 3 full-time, and we're all coders, and designers. But one specializes more in design, and me and my other colleague specializes in code. So, but we are pretty general as well, if that helps.
Any other questions? I know it's late, but you have like 2 minutes. All right, I guess everybody wants to go home or having a drink. So thank you for staying.
Thank you,
thank you,
guys.
Sam, for